What is up, YouTube? I was making a video today, and I was gonna make it on stream, but I realized unless I'm doing a react, I have too much ADHD to record videos on stream typically at twitch.tv/Row. If you would ever like to join me on there. I'm doing a free-to-play no-heal run as you've seen, and I'm completely crushing it. But anyways, I was just gonna make this video based on my thoughts of Wuwa on around 20 hours of gameplay, 25 hours of gameplay around, and playing since legit minute one. It's been an absolute blast, and my unironically has been very hard the whole time, and I'm like not even kidding. The combat is just so fun. Like, the sound design of hitting a parry is absolutely peak, and I think the only sound that comes close to that, to be honest, is probably the sound of a girl finally saying that she's into me. That's probably it. That's probably the only sound that will probably make me come, aside from the parry sound in Wuwa, including the dodging sound. I mean, I hear the dodging sound a lot because I'm a god, but the dodging sound is also freaking insane. But just the sound design for, like, it's just so, it just tickles your brain, almost like my uncle. Okay, it just tickles you in all the right places. Like my, I've been streaming for like 22 hours, and I've just woke. I don't know how to take a stream for 30 hours, but it's just been really fun, and the sound design is just amazing, and I feel absolutely no input lag at all when I'm playing on controller, because, you know, I'm a Giga Chat like that, and I only play Souls games because I've got the biggest dick in gaming history, and it just feels really good and extremely rewarding, and I would recommend anyone who's not into Wuwa for the story, which I'll get into. If you're not into the story, just wait till you learn to combat. I'm going to play Wuwa solely for the combat and whooping ass on the world bosses every day. And just all the world exploring, it's going to be so good. The story is getting better, but I'll talk about it in a second. But going back, keeping on with the combat shit, the 4 stars almost feel more unique than the 5 stars. And that could be a hot take, but taking Daji, for example. Her mechanic is she drains her own HP, and she can heal herself at a certain number of stacks for her forte. You play Daji, and you're playing constantly at 1 HP, and it's invigorating, and it's adrenaline pumping, and it feels good, and you're doing lots of damage, and you're feeling dangerous, and you're feeling and you're feeling insane, and she looks cool. But the 5 stars that I have, well, I only use one because I can't use Jin, even though I have her because she's a healer. But Jin Yan is legit just, he looks really hot, and he's really cool, and his animations are insane, but he's pretty much, you just roll your face on the keyboard and you win the game. I mean, to be honest, I don't think anyone can debate me on that. I think that's just a fact. Not that he doesn't need a combo that's probably the most optimal. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that, like, Daji has a very specific playstyle, and it's really cool, and it's very unique. So that's I think that's probably the best example I can give is, like, Daji. She's probably one of the more unique 4 stars to play. But when you're playing these characters and you're fighting bosses and shit, the OST is also so good. Like, when I walk into a room and I hear the fretless bass guitar start playing, to put it lightly, it's almost like I came so hard. It's almost like Wuwa took my virginity. And I'm, like, not even kidding. But moving on to my next sort of thought process for Wuwa, moving off of the god tier content, sort of going into the shit tier EN voice acting, because not that the voice actors themselves are mid, because they're not. It's just the simple fact that Kuro chose a very weird direction to throw that talent in, right? Because the main cast is very monotone, emotionless, and when they do have tone, it's wrong. So, like, it'll sound like they're asking a question when it's a statement, right? And it's very odd, and it's very off-putting. So that's really weird, and it broke my immersion very often, and I talked about it a lot on my stream. So that sucked, but the autoplay button also didn't help, because the autoplay will skip like 5 seconds of dialogue. So you'll just be chilling, and then suddenly, yeah, so we were gonna go fight the boss, and then my mom finally told me, and then it'll skip, and then you're donezo, and there's like nothing you can do about it. So that sucks balls. And even when the autoplay doesn't skip, sometimes the chat box just stops going. It's like, all right, here's how you cure cancer. The recipe is... And then it just stops. Like, what am I supposed to do about that? Like, I want lore. And the story, at the start, like all stories, is pretty mid, but the voice acting doesn't help. pretty much at all. It definitely detracts from what story there is. I can tell the story's getting better, but the voice acting is very much not being a good vehicle, in EN at least. I've heard some stuff. I've heard two of my Korean friends talk about the Korean dubbing also being kind of weak, but I can't speak on myself. I don't know Korean. But the EN is definitely very weak, and I switched over to JP because all the JP voice actors and the direction that the studio took them in is very good. Is very good. I love it very much. And there's also a lot of moments in the dialogue where they fuck up idioms. So it's like, to quote Shinya, they sort of took the two birds, hitting two birds with one stone sort of phrases, and it just gets fucked up. So I think it's like a translation thing. It's kind of hard to do, I guess, because idioms like that don't really transfer over to other languages very well. So that's kind of probably where that comes from. And that also kind of just took my immersion. But that's pretty much all I had to say. That's probably the worst thing in the game. The worst thing in the game is legit just that. That is the absolute bottom of the barrel worst. And to be honest, it's really not that bad if you think about it, because it's like, I'm not going to drop the game for that. And if someone drops the game because of that, you're a bitch. I'm sorry. If you drop the game because voices sound weird, maybe if those are the only voices you can choose, but nah, I'm sorry. That's just not good. It's just not worth. It's like, Wuwa's too good to not just keep giving a try. You know what I'm saying? Something you should give a try is the scenery. You see that transition? The scenery is absolutely beautiful. And what I like about it, because Genshin is beautiful. I think we can all agree Genshin is a very pretty game. But what I like about Wuwa is there's a lot of different beauty, right? Like there's a lot of ways that you can make something pretty. So it's not just bright colors and flashy shit. There's a lot of areas where it looks really dark and fucked up, but in like a pretty way. And I think I like the area called Sea of Flames, because you can just tell it's desolate, and you can tell there's only monsters there, and that it's an absolute shithole. I think that's pretty. In my own fucked up way, I think that's pretty. And they do it very well. I think they do it a lot of justice, and they make a lot of the mobs. They make a lot of the mobs in the game. Not really scenery, but they make a lot of the enemies in the game, like the echoes and shit. They just look apocalyptic in a really cool way, and I just think that's awesome. And it just looks really pretty, and it looks pretty ugly in its own way, if that makes any sense. It just really clicks in my brain. So that's probably my favorite part of the scenery. Another part I really like is, well, one, the BGM, but I'll talk about it in a sec. But when you look off in the distance, you can just tell without like going there that place is going to be pretty unique. Like, say you start off in the starting zone. When I got to the starting zone, I saw a gigantic mushroom over here, a gigantic mountain over here, dilapidated buildings in the front. Like, it's just so cool. And I just think, like, you being able to see that shit from spawn and then venturing over to it later is just, it's a treat. It's a good little treat. And I think the scenery it's usually slept on in games. Like, I don't know if it's usually slept on, but I feel like it's underappreciated sometimes. Because being able to see those areas you can't go to yet is such a cool touch. So that was fucking awesome. Another thing I really like about the scenery is simply the skybox. The skybox. The dynamic weather in the clouds just feels so good and immersive. And I love the sky. And the night sky specifically looks so good. And I don't know if anyone noticed it yet. But if it's not cloudy out, you can see a spot in the sky that's in the shape of the Wuthering Waves logo. And it's just a gigantic galaxy version of it. And it looks so cool. And I looked at it for probably like 10 minutes while listening to fretless bass as my background music, because the background music of the overworld is absurdly top tier. But the BGM is great. The skybox is insane. I love the dynamic weather. And I figured out today there's actually lightning. And I got struck by it. So that was really fun. That shit's fucking awesome. And moving on from that, the character design, moving after the scenery design and all that, the character design is really good. Aside from Verena. You know what I'm saying? Verena really ain't it. Look, if you want a small character who's really cute, just get Encore. Alright, Encore's way better. She's cute, and her playstyle is really cool. Verena, you're never even gonna see, because she goes on the field for 0.38 seconds, does her heal, and leaves. Unironically, she's not even on the field for a second. Aside from Verena, all the characters are designed very uniquely, and the hottest character in the whole game is available to everyone, being the Rover. Rover makes me feel weak, and I know for a fact they will stay on my team for forever. And I don't even think I'm kidding about that. For 2 reasons. Well, one, a little bit of a tangent. Well, one is her combat style is very unique. Well, not her combat style, her ability is very unique. Because she slows down time, and that's very good for my playthrough of no healer free to play. Buys me a lot of reaction time. Not that I need it, but it just helps to give my brain a break. 2, because she's so hot and she looks cool. Like the red eyeshadow, the short black hair, the boots, bro. Like she just looks so cool. And anyone complaining about her being too hot, what a nerd ass bitch. If you complain about a character being too hot in a game, man, go outside, go to a rave. Dude, if these people went to a rave in real life or a concert in real life and left their house and touched some grass, I gotta follow on Twitch, twitch.tv/SRO, by the way, and they actually went outside, they would see these people wearing nothing but fishnets and panties. No pasties, nothing. These people walk out with their tits out. It's insane. I'm like not even kidding. And anyone who's been to a rave knows. Like, I'm not even capping about that. And moving on from, you know, rave looking like people, Gian looks so good. His red eyeshadow looks awesome. And I love the design of Gian. And the way they got like the compressed shirt on him with the, like, it's like a modern Jianzhou design from Hankastaro. It's like moving away from the sort of robes a little bit and making it more, like, it looks like it would be like you can fight in that. It makes me very immersed because it makes sense in my brain that Gian fights in that clothing. And I think that matters a lot. Now, there are exceptions because Rover definitely wouldn't want to fight in boots like that, you know what I'm saying? But I do make exceptions for that. But Gian's clothing just makes sense to me, and it clicks in my brain. I would say though, the favorite part of all the designs in Wuwa has to be the eyes, like straight up. All the eyes are beautiful. They do them very good justice. Like Shinsu's eyes are so beautiful, bright. You know, they're gray with gray eyelashes. The Rovers are yellow with red eyeshadow. Gian's have red eyeshadow. It's all just they just do eyes very well. And I think that's probably the most important part of a character's design. Because that's the part you look at the most. Unless you're looking at their tits and ass. At which point, you're not looking at their eyes. But that's my overall thoughts of Wuwa. I would say, to sum it up, everything about the game, if I sum up everything about the game, including Ian voice acting, I would say it is at the point I'm at, at the start, it was a 7 out of 10. But where I'm at now, it's an 8 out of 10 with the English voice acting. If I do JP voice acting, it's a 9 out of 10. I have 0 complaints, essentially, aside from the voice acting. And I'm just going to say that a lot, because that's literally my only one. Like, unironically, that is my only one. And the story is just kind of mid, but, like, what gacha isn't? What gacha isn't, like, what can I say? Like, what gacha story isn't mid, usually? But I'm trusting that, hey, Kuro gonna save us. Kuro gonna save us. Hey, Kuro game, save us! So that's pretty much all I thought about the game. I'll see you on the next one. And I love you. Peace. Bye.